Welcome to the Writing with Purpose podcast, where I, Anna Williscroft, chat with fellow writers and outdoor enthusiasts about how we can embrace creativity and curiosity to live a life full of adventure that doesn't feel like hard work. I delve into exploratory conversations about my two loves in life, writing and nature connection, as part of my mission to share the well-being benefits they both bring. It's wonderful to have you here today. In today's episode, I am solo chatting with you about our senses and how we can live a more fulfilled life if we pay attention, experiencing nature in its full glory, and how to create fun and play for free with minimal effort. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Writing with Purpose podcast. And in this recording, it's my last solo chatting episode for a period of time before we launch into the nutrition series that I have planned. I'll share a little bit more about that towards the end of the podcast. So just for this week only, it's me once again solo chatting with you. And in this episode, I'm talking about the senses and how we can live a more fulfilled life if we actually pay attention to the things around us and really ignite our senses. I'm also going to share with you about experiencing even nature in its full glory, 360 degrees, IMAX if you will, and also how to create fun and play for free with very minimal effort. And I'm looking forward to the prompts that I've prepared for today's episode, because I think there's a lot of stuff there that you can get stuck into, ignite your senses, and also just have a lot of fun, which is what life is all about, isn't it? So just before we kick off with the writing words for wellness section, I just want to share in business news with you. So my master's assignment was submitted on Monday. Yay! I can breathe again for a couple of weeks. And as a consequence, and I've started doing this as soon as the assignments have been in, I usually take on a couple of new projects of what I call work. Because I've got a little bit more time, as I say, to breathe. So one of these projects is to create a series of blogs and social media content for a printing firm. And I used to work in the print industry, so it's something that I'm very familiar with. And I'm actually looking forward to getting stuck into this project because I used to love all of the different types of materials, textures, finishes. There's so much you can achieve with a piece of printed literature. There is this, and it still warrants some kind of real estate, if you like, because we do get a lot of promotional materials and things like that through the post or when we go to meetings. But if you have a really good piece of quality print that contains some valuable information, then it's worthwhile for marketing, and it's worthwhile for something as a personal asset as well. So I'm very much looking forward to getting stuck into that. And I've had a previous client who contacted me last week. He runs football development classes for children, and since working with him around about 12 months ago to develop a brand identity and some initial marketing collateral, he's now ready to take his website to the next level, which is very exciting because he now coaches almost every day of the week. I think he said 6 days of the week, which is amazing when he started at just Saturday mornings. So again, looking forward to that. All progress for people, which is all very, very exciting. Now in educational news, my next university module is Writing and Wellbeing Specialism. I'm not sure what to expect from this. I still need to pay for it before I get access to it, which I will do later on today. But yeah, a writing and wellbeing specialism. So watch this space. I think there's probably some elements of that I can bring into the podcast, certainly for the words for wellness section. And in personal news, I enjoyed a birthday breakfast Very chilled walk with friends last Friday, and despite taking the morning off, I still clocked 6 hours of work and got lots done. So that just goes to show how much more productive we can actually be if we take the time to rest and recharge. So a little bit of a lesson learnt there. And as well as it being my birthday just over a week ago, it was also Greta's birthday. So my partner's daughter, she turned 9. And we had a real fun day. The day before her birthday, actually, we had a fun day at the Trafford Centre in Manchester. I experienced a gourmet burger for the first time, which was very, very nice, if I do say so myself. I try and steer clear of that type of food if I can, but it was very tasty. And we saw Godzilla and Kong, The New Empire at the cinema, which was absolutely brilliant. And I love this kind of sci-fi good versus evil type genre, and this film, it did not fail. It was very over the top, it was humorous, and most people even clapped at the end of it, which I don't know if that's anything I've ever experienced before at the cinema. So if you like big monsters, a lot of action, a little bit of humor, then I do recommend that as a film to just go and get lost in the big screen for a couple of hours. Okay, so writing words for wellness. My current reading material is Life in 5 Senses by Gretchen Rubin, and I've been signed up to her newsletter for quite some time now. I've previously purchased some journals from her, and this is something that I'm exploring in more detail, which is living by actively paying attention and using my senses more. So, and I love how Gretchen approaches her work through experimentation. So everything that she seems to write or create, she's gone through a period of experimentation before she's launched anything out in the public. So I'm only in chapter 2, but I'm already learning quite a lot from this book. So I do want to share a few things from it, because it can be so easy to live passively, can't it? When we do the same thing day in and day out, particularly if we've got a job where it's quite mundane and we have the same tasks to repeat every so often. Maybe we don't have any hobbies as such. It's kind of eat, sleep, work, repeat, isn't it? And that can be very, very boring after some time. And I think, if we stop challenging ourselves, both mentally and physically, we can very quickly become inactive. And unfortunately, that can quite often foster a lackadaisical attitude, and we can become lazy, unmotivated to do anything new. It's quite self-absorbing, really. And I think when we're talking about our senses, they tend to fall into the background without much consideration. So, that sight, smell, hearing, taste, feeling, they all seem to be a little bit numbed in a sense. So excuse the pun. But by engaging our senses, we can become curious, and we want to know more about the world around us. We ask more questions, we become inspired to try new things, to approach a frequent task that we might do but in a different way, or simply just to pay more attention to things. And personally, I love this. I love this kind of concept. And as I mentioned, I've not very far into life in the 5 senses, but I've already gained quite a lot of things to think about. And one of the things that Gretchen talks about is having a body hobby, which is a great word to coin. And it's something. So this body hobby is something that connects us to our body. An activity like running, swimming, football, or playing an instrument, for example. And such activities require movement, don't they? But they also require our senses. And when I think back now to when I started trail running, which would have been about 5 years ago, I think it was probably a period in life when it really invigorated my senses. So it kick-started a lot of things that had just fallen to the background, that had gone a little bit numb. Because when you're running, particularly trail running, you have to use your sight to look where you're going, and that's ahead and that's underfoot as well. Eyesight to know whether you're following the right footpath, to dodge tree roots or frogs or holes in the ground. It's all out there that you need to sort of see and know is there, to avoid and to stay running and to stay upright, of course. And I also I started using my hearing more to listen to the sounds around me, and sounds such as animals, cars, or even anything that might appear unusual that I might need to pay attention to actually know what is around the corner or ahead of me. And I definitely think my sense of smell increased as well, because the aroma of a flower, a bush, a herb, for example, quite often now I'm like, oh, what's that smell? That's lovely, or that's a little bit pungent. So all of those things really did just come alive a lot more when I started running. And touch as well, and one of the lesser known senses, which is proprioception, which is our ability to sense movement and posture, balance, position and weight, and all of those things in relation to our body. And this sort of thing is happening all the time when I'm running, because the trails are mostly uneven with varying terrains. So you kind of got to be aware of what's going on, and of course that can be related to a lot of other body hobbies as well. So yeah, I love that little phrase there, body hobbies. What body hobby do you partake in? Please, I'd love to know. Please drop me an email, find me on socials, journaling at Anna, and share with me your thoughts on that. So yeah, and there's a sentence here that I just want to read out from the book, which I love. And that is, my environment felt oversaturated and processed, but also virtual and flat, and I wanted to make direct contact. Now, I relate to this so much. In our modern world, we are oversaturated with things. We've got things, we've got disruptions, we've got notifications. There is so much more going on now than there was 20 years ago, 10 years ago, even. And, a lot of what we do, it is virtual. It does involve technology, and it is processed in some way. There's a lot of things which, of course, are still very genuine, very traditional. But when you think about television or social media, there's so much stuff out there that has been edited to the nth degree. It's had filters until the person or the thing or the environment doesn't look the same anymore. And this is coming at us from all directions. So, and I get the whole wanted to make direct contact as well. Just let's get rid of the oversaturation, the processed stuff, everything that's virtual and just flat. And let's touch and feel things out there that are real. Let's get out into nature, let's ignite those senses, let's really get back to what life is all about, of just being there in the moment and enjoying what's there with us, and not having to worry about anything that's artificial or over processed. And you can say this sort of thing with food, with entertainment, with clothing. It's rife. Anyway, soapbox time. Let's get off the soapbox, and that brings me to the prompts for Words for Wellness. So, consider your senses, and what is your dominant sense, and why do you think this is the case? So spend some time thinking about that. What is your dominant sense? Is it smell? Is it sight? Is it hearing? Is it taste? Is it touch? Obviously we see everything if we can see, that is. We hear things if we can hear, that is. But which is the dominant one? Which do you feel as though you're paying more attention to? Which is in the foreground of what it is that you do on a daily basis, how you go about your daily life? Okay, prompt number 2. If you can remember, describe the last thing you remember seeing, hearing, tasting, smelling, or touching that felt super strong or powerful in some way. And simply free write in as much detail as you can about that sensed thing that you remember. And prompt number 3. Choose a sense and do something where you can fully experience that sense. Now, as an example, this could be when you're eating your dinner. So you could choose to slow down when eating your dinner and pay attention to the tastes and the textures of each ingredient. And what do they look like? What do they taste like? Can you taste individual flavors, or do they merge? So yeah, have a think about this and have an experiment. It doesn't have to be taste when you're eating your dinner, but that was just an example, and I think it's a good example because you can ignite more than one sense when you're eating food. Prompt number 4: what colours can you see around you in this moment? Take a look around. Does something really jump out at you as being the dominant colour? For me now, sitting at my desk here, I've got a lot of black and I've got a lot of silver grey, and that's kind of the equipment that's on my table, and also the table itself and the computer monitors. So yeah, a lot of black, a lot of silver and grey, and I'm starting to see pinks and reds and all sorts of things now. But yeah, what colours can you see? Now, moving on to nature, discover a nourishing connection. Now, I've been super busy, and because of that and because of the weather, it's been very temperamental over the last week or so. I've not actually been outside that much myself in the past week, although on Sunday afternoon, Neil and I did spend half the day in the garden. I carried on and weeded the rest of the soil at the bottom of the garden, and he painted part of the fence. Very productive day, and it was lovely just to be out in the fresh air and hear all the birds and feel the breeze on your face. And I do miss that sort of thing when I'm not active, when I'm not proactive with it every day. But I will be making up for the lack of outdoor adventures because this weekend I'm going to be hiking with some friends across the Yorkshire Dales along Heriot Way. Now, this is a 52-mile circular walk that has got stunning scenery, historic monuments, and the remnants of lead mining industry. There's going to be a lot for my senses to capture as I'm walking along. And for those of you that don't know, I didn't know this, but the walk is named after the fictional veterinarian James Herriot from the famous TV and book series. Now, in real life, James Herriot was Alf White, who I believe came from the area, or at least holidayed in the area. So there's a little bit of trivia for you for the next pub quiz that you attend, just in case. You're welcome. So we're over 4 days, we're going to be completing the hike, and we're going to be carrying our backpacks. And staying at a youth hostel or an B&B at the end of each day. So it's going to be tough. There's over 2,000 feet of elevation, I think, on, is it 2 days or 3 days? Anyway, it's going to be quite up and down in places, so it's going to be quite tough. But I do think that the weather has improved for us. So, and ultimately, this is a new adventure, and it is an amazing way to immerse ourselves in nature for a few days, and that is something that I really recommend to anybody, whether you want to do something like this and it's a walk, it's a bike ride, it's a run. There are so many of these trails or walks or cycling paths that you can just go on an adventure for a day, a couple of days, 3 or 4 days, and I highly recommend it because it really does help you to appreciate what's out there in the big wide world, away from all the hustle and bustle of a city town life. And yeah, it's almost as though you're not living life to a timetable or a clock of any description. So highly recommend that, and I'll share how that went. Take a look at social media. I'll probably be sharing some photographs of the journey. Yeah, let me just share a funny story with you. Greta decided she wanted to keep some ladybirds, and she prepared this beautiful little tub with some soil and some plants and some flowers. She put a little bit of salad in there for these ladybirds, and she found 3. One was already in the house, and then as she was putting the little tub together, she found another 2. Now, Neil and I were a bit unsure about this. We didn't really want to keep ladybirds in a tub which was sealed. I believe that you can do that actually. Now I saw something online earlier which seemed to be giving you instructions of how to humanely do that. But still, anyway, at the time we didn't really agree with it, so we kept leaving the tub off when she wasn't with us, and they flew around the house. They came back. They always seem to come back. And when we went to Wales the other week, we thought, right, let's put them outside. So we put these outside on a chair. Did we put them on a chair? Anyway, they were outside. And when we came back 3 days later, the ladybirds were still in the tub, despite the lid being off, despite them being in the great outdoors. They could have done absolutely anywhere, but they were still in the tub, bless them. So anyway, they did come back in for a while. The tub is now outside again. The 2 have gone, but 1 seems to have laid some eggs, by the looks of things, and it's clinging on to dear life to this little bit of foliage that's in the tub, protecting these eggs. And I do believe that they normally hatch within 3 to 10 days, or at least move into the next stage of their cycle. So we'll see where that goes. But so I thought that was really quite interesting, quite funny that these ladybirds, they've got the great outdoors around them, but they must have felt very protected by this little tub. Anyway, so moving on, I want to try and expand the 5 senses that I've already talked about with Nature Connection. And this week, I would love to invite you to experiment outside. And if the countryside isn't close for you, because, you know, we don't all have the woods or fields or anything like that on our doorstep, then think about a local park or green space that you could visit, or maybe even a National Trust venue, or even if you've got some a little patch of garden with some plants and flowers and trees and things in. And I'd love you to think about that sort of space with these next prompts. So prompt number 1, find a quiet spot to sit or lie and tune in to the sounds around you. What can you hear that is close by? And what can you hear that's in the distance? And describe those sounds. And can you assign an emotion or a mood to those sounds? And what do these sounds remind you of, either individual sounds or as collective noise? And prompt number 2, sit close to some flowers, some trees, or perhaps in a meadow, and close your eyes and breathe in deeply. And describe what you can smell. Use 1 word to describe it, and then as many words as you can think of. And just keep writing until you can't think of any more. And then, what does the smell remind you of? And the final prompt, look up to the sky and describe the clouds. Think about texture, colour, shape and size. And what shapes can you see in the sky, in the clouds? Now, I find that that's a lovely exercise to do. I quite often can find shapes in the clouds and elsewhere in trees. I'm looking out now, and I can see a nose and a mouth, a little bit like Potato Man. Yeah. And I even saw a dinosaur on the bedroom wall last week, where a little bit of plaster had been chipped away, and in the shadows of the lamp, it looked like a dinosaur with a large mouth and some I was going to say hands then. I don't know, would they be hands? Something like a Tyrannosaurus Rex, those little ones that it's got at the top of his body. Is that its hands? Is it? Well, let's just say limbs. Anyway, it was there, I promise you. So moving on to creativity, explore your authentic self. And I'm starting to really notice how children can keep you staying young. And if you're willing to play and be a part of their world, that is. So, you know, to have the imagination and the creativity and the focus on play that children have is amazing. And I'm sure that this drops off once they go to high school, because I've said before that, you know, it's being creative and play in that childlike sense, it seems to disappear at a certain age, and then it's only when we get we might have something like a milestone happen in life, or we reach a certain age, and then we think, oh, you know, life is too short, let's play a little bit more. So anyway, yeah, play. So I was unsure about what to write for this section for my show notes, and I thought about a couple of things that I'd been doing with Greta over the last week, and one of them was we were play fighting. I had a broken plastic sword case, and she had a flashing light, a kind of wand that I think might have come from the circus. But we started off just doing this little play fighting, and then obstacles were added. We made up rules. You know, we had to kind of tap each other so many times, or go for certain things, and then somehow we ended up putting our hearts into a case. And you know, you might think that I'm mad as I'm relating this to you, but it was such good fun. And you know, it was that much fun. Do you ever get that feeling when you've been laughing and smiling so much that the back of your head hurts? It's almost like the skin on the back of your scalp stretches tightly over your brain, and there's some kind of tension there that you feel. And that's how I felt. My head was aching, although not from a headache hurting point of view. It was just that we'd been laughing that much. And the other thing that we were doing last week is, well, she started it actually. I think perhaps she'd seen something on the TV, or she'd read something somewhere, but making up stories about ghosts being in the house. So I asked her a lot of questions. What do they look like? What are they wearing? How old are they? Where have they come from? You know, why have they chosen to be here with us? And it made me think that you know, she didn't have to think too much in responding to me and giving me an answer. And it did make me think that, you know, things are only as narrow as our imagination is. So, you know, we can kind of go anywhere and conjure up anything that we want to, if our imagination will expand as far as that, and we don't have the boundaries quite the same. And this was so much fun, and these ghosts came with us to the Trafford Centre last week as well, and they were also there in the morning when we had a birthday breakfast. So I'm just wondering whether they'll actually be here again with us this week. But yeah, so much fun in creating stories and having these little play sessions. So I want to invite you to create a little bit more play in your life with the next journal prompts. So number one, grab some plain paper, some felt tip pens or crayons, and spend 20 minutes. Set a timer on your phone or a watch or a clock, and spend 20 minutes drawing. And use the theme of the senses. So the theme of smell, sight, hearing, touching, tasting. Use the theme of the senses, and just be open to wherever your movements go. You know, whatever your fingers clutching your pen, what do they create? And after your 20 minutes is up, just consider what's in front of you. You know, why this image? Why now? Does it have any meaning to you? Where did you go when you started drawing? Was there a place that you recalled from a memory? Something that you perhaps aspire? And yeah, just consider the enjoyment that you had while you actually did it, because the time probably flew by because you were in creativity mode. And you know, do that more often as well. I probably draw weekly now. It is more so with Greta, but I do thoroughly enjoy that time of just getting the colours out and seeing what comes. And sometimes draw from scratch, sometimes there's a printout, you know, whatever works for you. Journal prompt number 2. Find a book you loved as a child and spend an evening reading the story out loud with family or friends. Imagine you're clustered around a campsite and you're all warm and cozy, and typically somebody is a storyteller around a campsite. So immerse yourself in this story, and at the end, ask questions about the characters. This could be a full book if it's a short one, maybe a chapter if it's a longer one. But ask questions about the characters and discuss what they were doing, who they were, and what the story meant to everybody that was listening. And I think you'll find it a really connective experience, but also interesting to hear people's responses to those questions at the end, because they're probably quite different. And finally, create a treasure hunt in your home. Write clues on a piece of paper or card and hide them in various places and rooms throughout your home. Now, each clue will lead to a new clue, which is hidden in the next place. And this is something that I've done 2 or 3 times now, and it can take a full afternoon, but it is great fun for all ages, because you can do something on your own, you can prep something with 2 or 3 of you, and then have the treasure hunt for somebody else. But it really is fun, and you don't have to buy anything, you don't have to use anything special. Just find hiding places behind pictures, under lamps, in the fridge, in the washing machine. Again, your imagination has no boundaries, so see where this will take you. And I'd love to know what you came up with in these prompts with these suggested experiments and activities. Please do drop me an email to hello@writingwithpurpose.co.uk. Find me on social media, Journaling with Anna, and share how the experience went, how you felt, what senses are in your forefront, and just have some fun and have some play. So I am excited about the next 6 episodes. I mentioned this at the start of the podcast. They are all focused on nutrition, and my podcast is kind of evolving a little bit. So my loves of writing, connection with nature, and creativity all point to living a more fulfilling life, a happier life. And a big part of this for me is living a healthy life as well, and consuming good foods and getting the proper nutrition that your body needs to have positive mental and physical health. So there's 6 episodes planned with 6 specialists, 6 nutrition experts, and we're going to be talking about all sorts of stuff. So healthy nutrition to support positive health and avoid burnout. How food changes through the preparation of it and cooking, healthy eating for mums to be, healthy eating for perimenopausal and menopausal women, building positive habits and aligning nutrition with hormones, cycles and seasons. We're going to look into eating right for your blood type and talking about some simple nutritional tweaks to clean up your diet. Look a little bit more at nutrition deficiencies and finding the answers when we become a little bit of a complex person. A little bit there about portion and appetite control, and then also ancestral foods, what they are and the benefits, and even talking about fasting and having a break from certain food groups or food types. So I'm really, really looking forward to that. So please do tune in from next week. The first one will kick off then, where we're going to be talking about healthy nutrition to support positive mental health and avoid burnout. And if you've got any questions that you would like to submit for that, please do send them to me via my email, because it's not yet been recorded, so I can address some of those questions should you have any. So that about wraps up this week's podcast. Please do sign up to receive my bi-weekly newsletter where I share more journaling prompts, and do subscribe and leave a review, because that helps more people to find us and listen about some of the ways to help their well-being by writing, connecting with nature and being creative. So I will leave you with a quote, which is from Immanuel Kant, and that is, all our knowledge begins with the senses, proceeds then to the understanding, and ends with reason. Thank you very much for tuning in, and I shall speak to you again very soon. Enjoy your weekend and have a super week. Thank you for listening to today's Writing with Purpose podcast. Having conversations with fellow writers or adventure enthusiasts brings two of my biggest loves in life together, writing and nature connection. I've been a copywriter and content creator for 23 years, but my passion is writing for well-being, and I'm on a mission to share the benefits that putting pen to paper has for personal wellness with as many people as possible. If you want to learn more about writing for your well-being and journaling techniques, please connect with me in my Facebook group, Journaling with Anna.